Hello, and thank you for downloading episode 61 of We Got This with Mark and Hal. Hey, if you enjoy the show and you want to help other people find it, a great way to do that is to go to iTunes, if that's where you listen, and rate and review us. Let other people know what you like about the show and why they should be listening. We really appreciate it, and it does help us find new listeners. Guys, I keep telling you this. I ain't lying. And now, without any further ado, episode 61 of We Got This with Mark and Hal.
Hello, I'm Hal Lublin.
And I'm Mark Gagliardi.
Since the dawn of humanity, one issue has gone unsettled. With the fate of the world in the balance, we're here to settle, once and for all. Best Stooge.
That's right. Don't worry, everyone. We got this.
Podcast should have a theme song. Podcast should not have a theme song. Yes, they should. No, they shouldn't. They sound good. Yeah, but people are just going to skip past it. You know what? You're right. We got this.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, what's up? How are you, Hal?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. This is a very, very exciting episode that we've got today. We have a fantastic guest with us.
Yes, we do.
And we're going to talk about one of my favorite things. I've always been a classic comedy fan and a fan of all things vintage and vaudeville. I know that these guys played several times at the Bijou Theater where I grew up, and I love these guys. And we have maybe the foremost expert in the United States, maybe the foremost expert in the world, in the universe.
This is true.
Today we're going to talk about the Three Stooges, and today we have, as our guest, we are sitting in his home. He was gracious enough to open his doors to us.
Yes.
His home for another week or so.
Yes.
He's not getting kicked out.
Bottom line me, baby. I love the long drum roll, and I love all the things you said. I wouldn't have said those things, but I'm glad you did.
Can I do it? Can you do it? Can I do the intro? Is it okay?
Oh.
I have to say this. We did Thrilling Adventure Hour together for 10 years. Yeah. There are two people, we've had amazing people do the show. Two people that I had trouble speaking to because I'm such a huge fan of their work that I became nervous and flustered. One was Weird Al Yankovic. The other is our guest today, Billy West.
Oh my God. What I know about him.
This is...
not Weird Al.
Look, we just want you to talk about Weird Al.
So everyone knows you as a legendary cartoon voice actor, but we're here to talk about the Three Stooges today. Give us your CV. Why should we talk to you? What do you have to bring to the world of the Three Stooges? You know these guys inside and out, yes?
Tons. I have tons of arcane knowledge, just periphery of all things Stooges. And that's why the Farrelly brothers hired me to be a consultant on the Stooge movie.
Did they really?
Yeah, I coached Sean Hayes to be Larry.
That's right. Larry. Because you do... I know you do that. I think we need to get into this at some point. Okay. Not only do you do impressions of all the Stooges.
Yes.
But you do Larry, like, through young Larry to the older Larry to, like, the 1973 interview post-stroke, which we'll get into all that.
Okay.
But I just want to give a quick shout out. This was suggested by Cake or Death on our
Thank you, Cake or Death. An Eddie Izzard fan, I assume, which is awesome.
But one of my early exposures to you was listening to the Howard Stern show with my father and hearing you do Larry. Maybe most famously in my mind, the bit where Larry is at Woodstock doing stage announcements.
Stage managing.
Don't eat the brown acid. Like that.
I had long hair before any of you hard-ons.
But also, you were telling us before we rolled on this that the voice of Stimpy from Ren and Stimpy was based on Larry Fine.
Yeah, but we couldn't have him sound like a depressed old Jewish guy, you know. Hey, Mom, I broke your face sock dishes. Stooges at home, you know. Yeah. Oh, you idiot. This is the milk. This is the dairy. Zochem. What are you doing? I'm a wandering Jew.
So did you grow up, like, when you were a little kid, you got exposed to the Stooges the first time?
Yes, I saw them every morning before I went to school. Imagine the thing that TV station did for me, that immense favor. We were exposed to that before we went to school, and I had a brain and a mind full of that stuff. I had no room for academia.
So you're just walking around school hitting other kids in class with hammers on the head and wondering why it's not making that same sound.
Well, that was later on when you learned that they were sight and sound jokes and that, but it was so much better than watching an old Western.
Yeah.
You know, to hear someone's eyes being poked out. Like, with that violin string.
Is that, so do you know what some of the classic Three Stooges sound effects?
Yeah,
they had that, who made the library? It was that studio they like.
Oh, Columbia.
It was Columbia.
They had soundmen busy editing stuff together and creating stuff like a bunch of potatoes with water in a bucket, you know, for puke. They would just dump them, and it sounded like that. And then it would be the slaps. For my money, they had sound effects of whip cracks, you know, where it would go. They would edit out the drawback, and they just use.
Oh, and that's how they got the slap.
Yeah. It feels so much better when you know that's where it comes from.
And slapping and punching never sounds like it does in movies. I always thought that the Indiana Jones movies, the punching, if someone would get punched in an Indiana Jones movie, it had meat.
Yeah.
And it was wet and loud. And, but you
had good Foley guys.
Doesn't a lot of that involve like just abusing cabbage and lettuce? Like you punch the lettuce, stab the lettuce.
You've been in where they're doing overdubs for a movie with sound effects. They got this phony half car and the door works on it. You know, and it's just sitting there and they go and then they've got gravel to walk on and
those little Foursquare fields that have leaves and wood and gravel and marble. I don't know who has marble floors.
Rich people, Mark. Right, they all have marble floors.
I assumed that I assumed the walls were marble, but I didn't know.
And they would play with room depth. You know, they could put it in a cathedral lobby or something, or then they could put it in the slapback sound of an old garage. You know, that quick echo bouncing off the place.
Which works for the Three Stooges because they wound up in several of their shorts in all kinds of different historical periods. They were never...
Yes.
The Three Stooges, I watched a lot of Three Stooges shorts, and the thing that got me was the number of jobs that they had.
Oh, yeah. And then when they'd run out of episode, they had no ending, so they'd just jump on bulls and ride off somewhere. Oh, we ran out of ending. We ran out of episode. You know, and that was like, these were all throwaways.
Yeah.
They were throwaways. They were two real comedies, and most people didn't give a dismal damn. You know what I mean? That was going to open for a big, important feature. So look what becomes postmodern art.
Yeah.
Same with the Warner Brothers cartoons. You know, people will never remember the movies they opened up for eventually, but they will always remember that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how we perceive the past. So they had this all the time. You could just go to the theater and see it. Most people didn't get there till it was over, or they go buy popcorn when it was on.
One of the interesting things about watching those shorts now is the visual. They really like sit on the visual jokes because when they were made originally, they're these two real comedies that they throw in front of, or that Harry Cohn was forcing in front of whatever B. Like, if you want to show the Stooges, you'll show this B movie. But they linger on the visual stuff because you have to. You're never going to see it again. It wasn't intended to be reviewed. It was, you're going to see it once. So we have to make sure this lands. So they did a couple, that were sort of satirical about the Nazis, I think before The Great Dictator. And there's one gag where it's a map.
Nazi spy or something.
And they have like the map with gag country names, but it takes a very long time to go around the map.
Oh, the famous map reading routine.
You cannot, you have to read all the funny names on the map. We can't just show it to you and you'll catch it.
Because
there's no background.
Because Mo just saying them still didn't have the impact of just the visual.
Yeah.
You go, now over to the Iran, and to she ran, and over to he ran. And they would do, to the no bikini atoll, the funny map reading routine.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think that they played those things slowly? Do you think that them doing that slowly was underestimating their audience?
Yes.
Because the Marx Brothers did these visual gags and they did these word play gags, but they would go 10,000 miles an hour. Like, if you don't get it, you don't get it.
That's right. But the Stooges, it was considered lowbrow humor. For some reason, the Stooges were relegated to that, the lowest of the low.
Yeah, they remain like kind of a divisive thing. Like people don't feel halfway about them. You either love the Three Stooges or you just don't care for what they do at all.
Well, women traditionally hated the Three Stooges. I remember my mom used to see me sitting there, I'd be like 8, watching them, and she would go, "Oh, how can you watch those awful men?" And then one time she goes, "They're Jewish, you know."
In an attempt to get you to stop watching?
I have no idea. Like, in other words,
really turn that off.
Don't let them fool you.
Oh, gee.
They're very crafty.
It's just a small step from an eye poke to reading the Talmud. I know it is.
Yeah.
I know it is. It's clear.
No, she was just like put out by it, and most women were. And I realized there were 2 things that could get a woman out of the room faster than, lightning is open up a can of sardines or turn on a Stooges episode.
Exactly.
Sure. And in a Stooges episode, you'd open up a can of sardines and pour it down the front of Larry's pants.
Yeah. We say it like it's a bad thing.
No, it's a great thing.
So our job here is to figure out who the best Stooge is. In my mind, it's a 4-person race, but before we get to...
Well, you got to count Teddy Healy in all of this.
Yeah, you have Teddy Healy who put them all together in the first place.
And he was the weakest link.
Right. And wasn't it Mo who got them out from under him?
Well, what happened was, this guy Ted Healy, he was a song and dance man. He was like a jack of all comedy trades, except that he had lousy timing. And he was he was like a guy that didn't understand comedy, that had the forcefulness of I don't know, like a Jackie Gleason or something. He would say, he would totally not understand the routine that was going on around him, and he'd be like, "All right, that's enough.
Because Jackie Gleason, without his sense of humor, is not pleasant.
He's just a bully.
He's a lout. So anyway, but Teddy Healy was the bully type, and he wasn't that good as like I said, he didn't really have a great sense of timing. But what he did was he brought his fiance along on the road with him. It was Teddy Healy and his gentleman, featuring Bonnie something or other.
Yeah.
People know out there.
And this is in the vaudeville era.
Vaudeville days.
Before the movies. Stooge in the classic sense. They were Stooges to Healy.
Well, yeah, and he used to slap them on stage for real. It was Shemp, Mo, and Larry. Curly was like still in high school or something, or he was leading orchestras, at night, and he had a big beard. And
he was a football player, wasn't he?
Well, I don't know about that, but they called him Babe. That was his nickname because he was the baby brother. And so it would be Shemp, Mo, and Larry, and they'd go on tour with Teddy Healy. And Teddy Healy used to really smack him. And Shemp goes, "I hate that guy. I'm tired of being slapped by that bastard, And he says, "Come on, what are you hitting me so hard for?" And Teddy Healy goes, "I want him to hear it way in the back of the theater." He was like sort of sadistic about it. So Shemp would wind up leaving. But what started all this was Mo and Teddy Healy were boyhood friends. They used to go on hunting trips and, boyhood friends. And then Teddy Healy, he was a make it happen kind of guy. He didn't care that he was no good, or he maybe wasn't even aware of it. He probably thought he was king.
These old vaudeville acts and the early stuff. I know you look at Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton, and their things were so specifically choreographed. Every second was choreographed. With the Stooges, how much of this was choreographed with what Healy was doing, or was it just, I'm going to slap you here, you slap him, you guys do a fight thing, and then we're going to...
They had to work that out. I think they came across it by accident, because Teddy Healy was a drunk and a crazy. Finally, Mo just, they had all had enough, so they decided to break away from him.
Yeah.
And become the Three Stooges. So now Mo, who was under forced compliance to be a Stooge under Healy, was now the boss. So he was the one that was the easy burn, and the one, what do you think you're doing? And he'd always have his teeth like, in a canine sort of.
Yes.
Yeah, you know what I mean. He would always go like this. It was an old 30s thing or something.
It's like perpetually sneering.
Yeah. What do you boys think you're doing? Old cops were like that.
Yeah.
When I grew up, cops loved Led Zeppelin. Real cops like Led Zeppelin.
It sounds like a great t-shirt.
Yeah, it
Real
does.
cops like Led Zeppelin.
What are we doing here? Let's just make t-shirts that say Real Cops Like Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Well,
put it
yeah.
in American Apparel.
I want to make a really old-looking t-shirt that said, Real cops sneer like Mo.
There you go.
Yeah. So So anyway, it evolved into that, and they did a musical for Columbia called The Woman Haters Club. And it was all sung. Shemp had left to have a solo career, so Mo was like, all right, we got to find somebody. So he went back to recruit Jerome, the Babe. And, when I was asked to consult some of the actors on the Three Stooges movie, I told Sean Hayes, I said, Larry, he'd be looking around, when he wasn't doing something, he'd be just like this, like brushing the horse.
Right.
Because the focus was not on him. So then something would happen, Mo would get hit in the face with a brick because he tied it to the horse's tail. All of a sudden they cut to Larry, and it is his action mode, and he does 0 to 80. Like he goes from, demure, like, brushing the horse. And then all of a sudden they cut back to him, and he's mugging, he's going, oh, ooh, like sucking all the oxygen out of the room. I used to love those shots. Like, someone just said, do something. So he's like reacting overboard.
He's a great he and Shemp are my two favorite reactors out of all of the Stooges.
Yes.
And just so we're gonna eliminate Ted Healy. We'll respect his place in history.
Yeah, because
he's not like a best.
He was never a Stooge, but he was integral in getting those guys together.
Yeah,
he wasn't Brian Wilson. He was Murray Wilson.
Yeah. My other hero.
And I
Brian
guess if we're going with the Beach Boys, then would Larry Fine be the Al, the next door neighbor to this family business? Because how many of them were brothers? It was.
Shemp, Mo, and Curly.
Shemp, Mo, and Curly were all brothers. What brought Larry into this? This was just...
They found Larry in St. Louis or something, or Philadelphia. That's what it was.
That's where he's from.
He was in vaudeville there with a woman named Janie Hankey. No, that was his daughter. I see. This is all like time-space continuum junk.
Yeah.
Who was it? The Haney sisters.
Right.
That's what it was. It was like 2 or 3 girls that would be the window dressing to him playing lousy violin and doing the Russian, almost your ass to the floor dance while you're playing. And it was just sitting there inert, whatever he was doing, but they were making some sort of living, and Mo and, Shemp says, are you thinking what I'm thinking? And they were watching Larry, and they copped him. And he went with them, but he wasn't related to them or anything.
He's like a lovable pick for me because I'm also from Philadelphia.
Yes,
so, which anybody who listens to this podcast has heard me say.
Hal loves to talk about being from Philadelphia.
In Boston, he was so pro Boston, and he was doing basketball games, and
Larry was.
No, this is a guy named Johnny Most. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
And he was so pro Boston, he was like, Philadelphia, and, the city of brotherly hate. But the thing about Philly, now that we're on the subject, I've been listening to you to see if you have that bad plumbing that people from Philly have.
I can turn it on, but I don't.
No, it's nose and, I don't know, sinuses, yes.
Do you just refer to a Philly accent as bad plumbing?
Yeah.
There is I do have sinus. Do you hear it?
Yes.
You can hear it.
It's like a mid-Atlantic kind of thing or something. I don't know. But anyway, it was like, remember George Jetson? Yeah. George O'Hanlon, the old actor, played him, and he was from Philly, and he was like, "Oh, come on, JD, honey, the cleaners are 500 miles away. It'll take an extra 5 minutes just to get there." And then Larry was like, "Hey, Mo, there's too much stencil on the tree." And I said, "It's a Philly thing."
But it does all come through.
Be careful, Mo. I made him like re-famous just for repeating stuff that was, disconnected. Like, good boy, Curly. You kept her up all night. There's the circus. There's the fairground. He was always like, we gotta get over there, or,
He was the exposition guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is what we're about to do. Here's what's gonna happen. Is everybody on board with us?
Yeah, and I better get with this comedy fast.
Yeah.
It's different from playing a fiddle on your knees.
Hand me my violin. That's my thing that I do.
Yeah. Oh, and they would work it into an episode now and then. Larry was fiddling so that Curly would go nuts or something to be the wrestler.
Yeah, wasn't it Feather made him go crazy, and then they played the violin, and he would box.
He would do Pop Goes the Weasel, and Curly would just turn into, he'd become feral and start swinging at anything that moves, so they got him in the boxing ring or a wrestling ring. I forget which one.
I don't know, that plot seems a little contrived.
What about three guys that sleep in the same bed every episode?
Yeah, three guys they were the original 3 Men and a Baby, weren't they? They had what was the one where they had to take care of a baby?
Oh yeah, the baby was orphaned or laying on a doorstep, and the Stooges found him. It's like, we gotta feed him. What do kids eat? He goes, I don't know. No bones? No potato chips? And then so Shemp, they go, the kid was crying, shut him up. So next thing you know, Shemp gives him a pacifier, and Mo looks in and he goes, the baby was sucking on the barrel of a pistol.
Oh,
I think my father inherited his parenting skills from Mo. Yeah, because I used to get that's in case you do something when I'm not looking.
Yeah.
The smack in the head.
Yeah, sure. Exactly.
Nice man. But I was coaching John Hayes and Will Sasso. We did a Skype, and he said, just tell me anything. I said, well, I have a lot of weird information that nobody really knows except for me and a couple of people. He said, like what? I said, well, when Curly is running and you watch him run and he pivots on one foot, he's limping. He has a limp. You go back and watch it. It's like, I'm coming. Like an old moonshiner or something. And that's because he shot himself in the foot when he was 13.
What?
Oh, yeah.
What?
It was baked into the cake what his future was going to be. A Stooge.
Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't we'll leave the core four. We'll come back to Mo, Larry, Curly, and Shemp.
Okay.
So there are three others that I think we should talk about.
Yes.
Probably the most peripheral is Emil Sitka.
Yes.
Who I had not heard of until the car ride over here.
Yeah, give us a little bit about Emil Sitka, who was a Larry fill-in, right?
Well, at the end he was, but they were all precancerous, and it was just like tick, tick, tick. So they decided that Mo promised Emil Sitka many, many years earlier, like way back, someday you're going to be a Stooge. But until then, he was always this put-out boss or salesman who was in charge of them, and or he'd play these oddball characters like a Justice O'Peace, and there was this thing about how I think it was Shemp that got tricked into getting married because he was left this will and said he has to get married by sundown. Meanwhile, Mo and Larry cooked up that plot because they wanted to F him. They wanted to F up his life or something. So they said he inherited all this money, and all these women that turned him down over the years were coming with the newspapers with the story in it, and they all were trying to grab a piece of him. Are you going to marry me? The woman puts his head in a letterpress. She's wheeling the letterpress, and it's coming down, and he goes, "No, you're crushing my eyebrows." And she goes, "Are you going to marry me?" It goes, "Never." Meanwhile, she was gorgeous. She was one of those big, Veronica Lodge, only aggressive and big. And where did that come from?
Wouldn't you think that those guys would learn to avoid letterpresses after a while?
I feel like the letterpress was... That was the only function that it served, was to crush heads and cause amusing faces in comedy movies.
Well, it was a classic prop.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Anything that could hurt you.
Yeah, you brought up letterpress. Right before I came up here, I decided, all right, I'm going to brush up on the Stooges a little bit. So I watched Disorder in the Court. Where and then they put his head in a letterpress, and they put Curly's head in the letterpress, and I think it's Mo, vices his head, and then it expands back out because it's Curly, and the wheel drops on Mo's head. But stay away from at a certain point.
Yeah. Also, a letterpress, there's nothing that happens in that by accident, because that is a slow-moving apparatus.
It's kind of like they could do a sequel to the movie Concussion, but just make it about the Stooges as the characters they played. I think you have significant damage from all those letterpresses.
Oh, yeah.
Stuck your head in.
Yeah, I want to get one now.
Yeah. That's what this house needs, is a letterpress.
It does. If there was just an old-fashioned office off that way, But I was going to say Disorder in the Court. Man, oh man, that made me laugh for all the wrong reasons. That's how I enjoy the Stooges, because I'm laughing hysterically at all the little stuff you don't even notice.
Right.
Just the way the judge says, this parrot comes flying in and he goes, "Find the ladder! Find the ladder!" And the judge goes, what does this parrot mean by find the letter? And I'm dying. I'm laughing. No one was supposed to laugh at that. What does this parrot mean by find the letter? Everybody was so cranky and pie and coffee and fedora, So
now, these were studio system guys, so this was a guy this judge would have been a guy that played a judge in a very serious movie the day before.
Well, one of the judges played Mr. Borg. Remember on that ship they stowed away with this foreign guy who had microfilm hidden in watermelons? Well, his name was Gene Roth, and long after he had worked with the Stooges, he was a judge on Perry Mason, the judge. And I'm going, that's Mr. Borg, You got to work backwards.
Yeah. Did the parrot fly through the Perry Mason episode?
Yeah, but the parrot was so ridiculous. They had this shell of a parrot, and they made up a little apparatus like a wheel. That looked like little birdie feet, but they were on every side of that wheel, and they would just go like round and round together, and so it looked like he was walking.
Yeah.
Find the letter. And they had some stupid Billy West like off stage going, find the letter. It had to be, right? It would have been me.
Yeah.
If I were back there. But but that one was a crack up, and you said you saw that, but I used to see every one of them on the way to school. So we're talking about Emil Sitka.
Yeah.
That episode where Shemp was being forced to get married thinking he was going to inherit millions. Emil Sitka played the justice of the peace, and whenever the woman gets in the office with Shemp, he got to marry them, and he's like, he reads from the book, and he goes, hold hands, you lovebirds, and they do it, and then all of a sudden the door busts down, and there's all these interruptions, so he can't quite get married. And it's just a way to, let's keep it going until we run out of episode, because we don't know how we're going to end this.
Get those bowls so we can ride off.
And it was Shemp, so I want to talk about him for a second. Ed Burns directed a lot of these episodes. And he said, in all his later interviews, he said Shemp was the most instinctive actor that they had. And I kind of buy it. Because he reminded me of one of my alcoholic granduncles. With the bread breath and he's in your face. You haven't got a dime, do you? Boy, I gotta buy a drink or it's gonna be... and he had his own little set of noises. So they were all freaks, Poor Mrs. Stooge.
Yes.
Mrs. Stooge.
When I think about it. Jenny. That was their mom.
Oh my goodness.
But
she wasn't Ma Howard, she was Mrs. Stooge.
This was Bronx, and she was a real estate person, so they had a buck.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like these three kids, came out playing stickball and everything. They were probably going, we want to get into entertainment, and the mother was probably filled with blessings for them.
Yeah.
And just not unlike Mamie Marks, encouraging her nutbag sons to do something.
Which is interesting to me. I always thought that that was not viewed as that's a tough life. Like if you come from means to want to, if your kids want to subject themselves to
slumming
on the road and these brutal vaudeville houses and.
But that was the way. No one had any options. You couldn't buy your way in, I don't think, if you were a young performer, because they wouldn't go for any nonsense then. You had to be a triple threat.
Yeah.
You had to be able to do anything and everything.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of these guys could dress up in drag, and it's like you're playing women in the scene. It's like, okay, no problem. That's what they wanted. It chose them probably before they chose it.
Yeah.
So do you think that Shemp, out of all of them, was, you said he was the most instinctual. Do you think, is there one of them that you guys would say is the best? I know that acting is not really terribly high on the list.
But I learned to act, and I learned timing and comedy from watching those guys.
Mm-hmm.
When I discovered them, I stopped going to church. That's how serious this is. I had my saints.
Yeah.
I found them. That's all they need. I don't care about any more nonsense.
Yeah.
So,
would you say Shemp was the best actor of the group?
I kind of think so. I kind of agree with Ed Burns. He always knew what to do, no matter what happened. Sometimes Larry is looking down and, the camera, you're not supposed to be watching him, and somehow he said, I want to lean into that, and you see his hands moving. He's not quite with the flow of things.
Yeah, he's just sort of waiting for whatever.
Waiting for his Larry moment where he can go, mein hernia, or something. I don't know.
Yeah, Shemp does seem like he's active and engaged. He was actually. I think when you're a kid, it's hard to reduce. Or to avoid that, it's almost seductive how great Curly is.
Right.
So talented. He was you look at these talented guys like Chris Farley, Belushi, just keep going back and back, and then you get to a guy like Curly who's pure energy.
Pure.
His physical bit, the speed at which he moved. He has a whole bit in Disorder in the Court where it's raise your right hand, put the left hand here, and he's got a cane and a hat.
Take off that hat.
Yeah, he continues juggling.
Raise your right hand.
He's fantastic.
Shemp to me, when I was a kid, Shemp to me was not Curly.
Yeah.
He was,
sure.
If a Shemp one came on, it was,
it's him.
And that's, unfortunately, now that's how it's viewed, I guess, by a lot of people is,
right.
Oh, I'm going to watch the Three Stooges. Oh, it's not a Curly one.
You know what? I thought there was two Curlys when I was a kid. Because every night you'd see an episode where it's like, ow, wow, 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 after the stroke.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
what was it he did 2 more years after he had a stroke?
But then I'd see the old one, and I thought they were two different people.
Yeah.
I didn't know he kept working. I was not aware he kept working.
He kept going after the first one.
We had 2. That's right.
And that's what brought Shemp back.
But see, the thing about Curly, yes, he was pure. Yes, he was pure output, but he was also pure id, I think.
Right.
And he married hookers. He married hookers.
He's the Babe Ruth of comedy.
Yeah.
That's why they called him Babe. It has to be
Babe.
It fits.
True, it does fit. But he, he hated these women, even though he married them. They were gold diggers, but he was under a pile of taxes and bills, and he was being crushed by the alimonies and so he'd go crazy in his own house. The gold digger would be he'd see her on the phone, ordering clothes from whatever department store, and he would sick the dogs on her. Right. He loved dogs more than he loved people.
Wow.
He had a bunch of them, and he would sick them on the dame, and then he would fill the sink full of cigar butts, he'd put them out there.
So bizarre.
It is bizarre.
It makes sense though.
He was suited for nothing else in this world except to be a stooge. Because that's all he knew how to do. He lived the part. I don't know what he was like in his real life. Right. I think he just probably drank a lot. And he did drink a lot to kill the pain of his 13-year-old shot to his foot. Yeah, it never got fixed or anything, and he always limped. But I think he imbibed, and then it looked like, no, this guy loves to have a good time. Right. I think a lot of it was killing the pain.
Well then, all right, why don't we move to 2 more Curly replacements? I think we have to talk about them, and that's Joe Besser and Curly Joe DeRita.
Curly Joe DeRita, what was he, the first Italian stooge?
Yeah, right. And he did all the stuff. I mean, he was there for
Italians
a long time.
As an Italian who does a show with a Jewish guy, we're practically the same.
Yeah, and all Jewish guys want to be tough Italian guys.
Exactly.
I beat people up in court.
My brother's in medicine.
Get out of here, or I'll have the gavel broken.
But those guys, Curly Joe DeRita, he did a lot of the stuff. I saw they made feature-length movies in the 60s, right?
Yes.
And I saw one that was a Western.
Oh, The Outlaws is coming.
Yeah, and for me, it is practically unwatchable.
Of course it is.
But, you're like, oh, this guy is clearly not Curly, nor is he Shemp. It's clear those 2 guys are even one of them in a rolling hospital cot might have been better. I would have been more welcome to me watching it.
But the thing is, that's not really Curly Joe's fault.
No.
It was just Curly Joe happened to be the guy who showed up, who was the replacement in the 60s when it's in color and they're 900 years old. And
right. But there's levels of it. It's like Shemp couldn't replace Curly, but Shemp became a guy you couldn't replace.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You know what I mean? He had his own set of noises and his own ideology.
Yeah.
And he always seemed to know what to do, whether he was being pulled on 2 levels of floors. There's a hole, and he's like half his body's down, and the rest of it's upstairs. And they're tugging to pull him up, and these guys are pulling him down. Oh, my neck!
And it's more of a 3-person act. What the other thing Curly brings is like you said, he sort of sucks up a lot of oxygen and energy.
Yeah. But he's satellited around the entire thing, too.
Exactly.
His energy allowed him to do that.
Yeah, but so when he's not there, especially Shemp, as I got a little bit older, I came to appreciate Shemp, and he's been my favorite for a very long time, for the reason that the Shemp, Larry, and Mo feels like a 3-person team where they each have... Larry gets more of a defined role in that trio than he does with Curly, where he just shows up at the end of a bit.
To me, he was like the Keith Richard of the Stooges. There had to be somebody in the middle that held the whole band together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was...
Hey, Mo, I'm on heroin again.
Stay off those towers.
What's the matter with you? I told you to try morphine. You're trying to make an idiot out of the doctor? So anyway, see, we're all over the map, but you have to be with the flying in and out of the Stooge factions and certain members. But Joe DeRita, Joe Besser had his own thing too. Mm-hmm. It was kind of like nails on a chalkboard. It wasn't endearing in any way where we were like, this is just adorable. It was like, I'll be quiet, you. It was that whole thing. It was all that, it was like, I don't want to sit in the barrel, Mo. You, bossy, you.
Didn't he have a thing where he would not allow himself to be hit?
That's right.
Which is
if you're one of the 3 Stooges, and you're not going to allow yourself to be hit,
maybe Joe Besser
look, I'm going to play basketball, but I'm not taking any shots.
Yeah.
That's right, and he would always go, remember, I got pictures of you and Larry, at the Fantasias behind the stage.
Yeah, exactly.
Something was up.
Yeah, there had to be, exactly.
He might have saved them in World War II or something, Come to, did you know that when it came time to cash in your chips, that I would be your banker? You crazy.
I feel like I have to go watch some of these episodes with Joe just to hear this insane. Well, you mentioned Shemp having his own noises. Curly obviously had his own noises.
And Joe Besser had that, just that manic, what are you trying to do, you? And it was almost like it was sissified, as they used to say. Because he used to play a character with Abbott and Costello called Stinky, who had the same personality, same voice. He was like a boy man.
Yeah.
A baby man. And but that was his thing. Mm-hmm. So then he's gone, and then they replaced him with Joe DeRita, who put no effort into it, but he was willing to try to be Curly.
Right.
And he was Curly Joe. So I thought, okay. Then he comes along, and he's like, he was like, everybody was too tired. Like Mo was too tired to punish him.
Yeah.
What did you do that for, Joe? He's like, you're not gonna hit me, are you, Mo? Buddy boy. He called him Buddy Boy. Who could get away with calling Mo Buddy Boy? It's like,
without getting 2 fingers to both.
Come here, you. Screw it. I got arthritis in my eye poking fingers.
That's right. That's enough out of you. I'm going to go take a nap.
All right. Let's not think about the Three Stooges in the era of eye-poking fingers with arthritis. Let's think about them in their heyday.
Okay.
Let's go back to the golden era, the Columbia greats, Larry, Mo, Curly, and Shemp. We've talked a little bit about Shemp being this sort of beautiful integration and the actor of the group. Mm-hmm. Curly as being this pure id, but everybody loves this wild and insane energy that's sort of unmatched. What did Larry bring to the table?
He was the guy. It's hard to put it into words because he is so sublime. Mm-hmm. But he'd be the one that would try to tell Mo the better idea. Maybe you should hold him up by his pants. And it's like, maybe I should kill you. You had to have that going because Mo had to be punishing somebody. Mm-hmm. That was his juice, He wouldn't, it was very rare when he didn't get you for something you said. Like I said, there's a rare episode where Mo didn't go, come here. he just ignored it. And I went, that's totally out of form, out of character.
Come here, you.
Yeah.
I'm going to hug you right now.
Yeah.
I value you as a person.
He'd give Larry a crowbar with the upturned end on it, and he'd stick it up he'd pull his nose up like a fish hook, and he held it up, and he goes, here, hold this. And Larry would be great just chewing up scenery.
Yes.
He keeps it there till Mo comes back.
Yeah. He was the only one who he didn't really fight back. Curly maybe had a little bit more backbone in terms of he would stand up to Mo. They would all wind up getting hit. I do feel like the one time Mo's like doesn't hit you, he disappears for a while and then just comes back with an axe, and you're chopped up, and you're gonna wind up at the bottom of a river somewhere in a lot.
Thank God he's slapping you in the face.
But another one of their routine trademarks was sometimes Larry was the third in the timing of the Emir of Schmo will cut off your head. Good, then it'll make it even. Or something like that. Mo would be resolved, let him do what he has to do.
Yeah.
And then, and they, Mo said, sounds fair to me. And then Larry would have to add a little button on it it don't sound very fair to me. Just to reinforce that they weren't going to go along with this. Meanwhile, the character that they're against is upending everything.
Yeah. He balances the group out. He's the middle child. So he'll never be the commanding presence that Mo is, and he'll never be the out of control personality that Curly or Shemp or Joe or Curly Joe were. That was sort of their role, right?
Yes, but Larry sometimes would have to talk to Mo out of hitting him, and something wasn't his fault. Shemp was dead, and he's up in heaven, but he decides he's going to come back and punish these two. For their greed and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And it was a very funny episode, and they invented a fountain pen that could write under whipped cream. And this rich couple was coming to this phony penthouse they had, and they were in, tuxedo-type suits. Mm. And they were going to underwrite this project, and so, Mo makes a bunch of money from the deal. And he goes, here, this is for you. And he short sheets him.
Sure.
And he puts the money in his pocket, and Shemp is standing there, and you can see him, but they can't see him. So he goes, you've been picking on that little guy long enough, and he grabs the money out of Mo's pocket and he sticks it into Larry's.
Wow.
And then,
good job, Shemp.
Yeah, and then Mo says, hey, and Larry pulls out this wad. He goes, give me that. And he puts it, and then Shemp comes back and takes it out again and gives it back to Larry. And he goes, hey, Mo, you took my money, right? Yeah. And he pulls out the wad. He goes, it's Shemp. He's come back to haunt us. It was just like a way to explain things to Mo so that Mo might try to get a conscience.
Right.
His poor dead brother.
So then, out of these four...
Does this make any sense?
It does.
This is perfect.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I'm glad.
You're
Well, you're on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of Stooge mysteries.
Yeah.
That I can't explain.
Why does Mo have no conscience? Is it just to move whatever plot and slapstick moments they had forward?
And he does sometimes, he has no conscience.
Yeah, but instead of advancing the plot, he was advancing his Mo-ness.
Yeah, exactly.
And I love the bad ADR sometimes where, if he was on the ceiling of an airplane hangar because he's coated with rubber and they inflate him to get him out of it, and meanwhile he floats away, and he's bumping off the ceiling like a balloon, an escape balloon. And you hear this bad ADR, they're going, we gotta get him down. And he's like, oh! They stuck him in a closet to do the little ADR, and then they married it to the scene.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm floating! Because they forgot to explain what was going on to him. I love bad ADR. It's like the Munsters, It's like, look what you did, you big dummy. You locked us in the bank vault. Normally it would be, look what you did, you big dummy. Yeah. But it was done in a closet, because they had to probably fill out the dialogue a little more and give the audience a better shot at understanding it.
Exactly. None of that ADR ever makes you go, thank goodness they added that. I was so lost.
Ooh, get me down from here.
So, all right.
You're going to have to go back and watch it, and you're going to go, oh my God, there's a whole other set of reasons to love the Stooges.
Let's talk about Mo. We have a little bit more. We've given the other guys a little bit of due.
Let's talk about Mo, and then we'll figure this out. We're going to hash it out. And
I feel like Mo is, it's interesting because I came into this night thinking that I would view Mo as the glue of the three, but maybe it's just because he's always the ringleader, and he's the one who's coming up with the plan and keeping them together.
But he doesn't need them. It's like he's always ready to throw them under the bus.
Right.
Yes.
Somehow.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't do it. He did it. Put him on the chopping block, the other Stooge.
And whatever plan he comes up with, he could easily do himself. They're just a hindrance.
But the best part about it is he was as dumb, or maybe even a little dumber sometimes than the other two were.
Yeah. Sometimes, like at his best, he's the smartest dumb guy. And whatever he gives out to other people, to the other Stooges, he gets from everybody else. So it's just this, it's like the trickle-down economics of physical abuse, where he's getting abused by everybody above him because he's lowest of the low.
That's right.
And he's got two guys who are willing to take it from him, so he takes it all out on them.
Why did you press the captain's suit? Mo turns around. Why did you press the captain's suit? And then Larry goes, why did you press the captain's suit? And then Curly goes and he's like, low man again. So Mo was quick to throw them. But Mo would lose his Mo-ness when he was scared. Fellas, I got a good idea. We better get out of here. And he's not going to force anyone to get out of there, or
And you have to feel for Mo too, because in that instance where if Curly is the low man on the totem pole and Larry's one step up, at least Larry and Curly know that their abuse is going to come from Mo.
Right.
His abuse is going to come from every single other person in the world.
Right, and very rarely did Curly and Larry have an argument, because that threw off the dynamic.
Right.
Yeah.
It was something like, it was just a chain reaction. It was never one of them mad at the other. They always had to gang up against Mo, who dominated.
But when you take stuff, sometimes Mo quotes, they're Mo quotes. Everybody knows what they are. And Curly stuff. Everybody can do that, but no one gave a damn about Larry. And I just still, to this day, find it hellaciously funny to hear him go, hallelujah, I'm from the South. I would watch nothing else but that. And so I decided that I have to use him if I ever make it or become anything someday. I got to put him in something. So I did it with Stimpy, like I said.
Yeah.
It's like, will you button me, Ren? And it's Larry pitched up. And cause it would have been like, hey Mo, you button me. Depressed.
It needed that energy, yeah.
It had to have cartoon energy so we could bounce off a comedic, a cartoon parameter.
Yeah.
In the animation world. Squash and stretch. That's, real people can't do that. That's the beauty of a cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to say one more thing about Mo, and then we'll figure this out, which is Mo Howard, the person. Just two things about him that I think are notable. One is he is I think the only one who was there until the bitter end, because Larry got to a point physically where he just couldn't do it anymore, and Mo was there and a leader and organizer for however many years, almost 50 years. I think he kept them together
since vaudeville, which they were probably doing that in 29.
Yeah. And then as a performer,
1929.
He does, they as a group there's no straight man to the group, really. The straight men are always the people around them.
Right.
Everybody is their Margaret Dumont.
That's right.
But within the dynamic of the group, he is the straight man of the Stooges in that Stooge world, and he does it so well. The other two guys are not, Curly's not Curly without a Mo to play off of. And Mo did that so well, and part of it may be because they were brothers and knew each other, and that same dynamic carried to Shemp, but also to Larry. Mo and Larry were great, and Larry was the least seasoned performer of all of them, and Mo would carry him.
And Larry would say in interviews, he said, boy, when Mo slapped you, you stayed slapped, baby. What a great quote, because he was willing to take it. Shemp was not willing to take it. So Mo, realized I can't keep doing this to everybody, so he'd learn to eye poke in the eyebrows rather than the eyes, and it looked real because it was so fast.
Yeah.
Now, are we basing our decision though on just on screen? Because if we're going off screen as well and taking the behind the scenes into account, I think there's no question, at least for me, that it's Mo, as he's the guy that sort of took care of all of these guys. He's when they contractually and just in life as human beings, not as the characters of Mo, Larry, Curly, and Shemp, but Mo Howard.
But Mo wasn't that stupid, see, because he clarified the equation that Albert Einstein gave us in 1918 or whatever, E equals MC squared. And Mo said it so we could pretty much all understand. He went, "We ain't getting no place fast." And so you gotta love him for that.
Yeah.
So were we trying to figure out, what is our...
as far as on screen, the question was just, who's the best Stooge?
I think Larry sort of, while he's great, it's hard for him to match up against Mo and Curly and Shemp. Do we agree on that?
Yeah. Yeah, because there wasn't enough of him. He always played the role of the guy in the middle, and if he got a little cocky and he was tired of being bossed around, Mo would act on it immediately, and that'd be the end of it.
Yeah. So then it's Mo, Shemp, or Curly. Is there one of these three that were willing to sort of...
They were the brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're down to the Howard family exclusively.
Yeah.
From, were they Bensonhurst? Is that where they grew up?
No,
Brooklyn or Bronx?
The Bronx.
Yeah.
When Bronx was still dirt roads with sidewalks and curbs.
That's a lot of horses. It just looked like...
Looked
like the Boston streets from the beginning of Cheers. It was just horses and carriages and dirt roads. Okay, so we've got the three Howard brothers. Mm-hmm. Is there one of those that...
If I may throw out, and you guys can tell me if you can both slap me on the side of the head or poke out my eyes.
This is like Meet the Press.
Just based on what we were talking about earlier with, if we're going with the Three Stooges as an entity, Curly is brilliant.
Yes.
Curly is a brilliant
and fearless
comedian
because he didn't know any better.
And
that's the best kind of energy. It's nuclear.
And on the flip side, though, that nuclear energy that he has, does that put him at the top of the pack, or does that separate him from the Three Stooges as an odd man out?
Well, in their day, you got to remember it's the 1930s, and everything was buttoned down and kind of prim and proper. Everybody acted like, "Hi, neighbor. Hey, neighbor." And then you see these three guys doing this stuff, sticking their fingers in light sockets with the sound effects and everything, or, pretending to be plumbers and knocking the wall down to pull out a pipe, and it's not a plumbing pipe, it's electrical wires, No wonder the water don't work. These pipes are clogged with wires. So you want to pick first, or how do you want to do this?
Well, I'm saying, does that? My argument was, should we eliminate Curly from that if he's the outlier?
I think it's possible.
It's possible, but I can't.
I can't eliminate Curly.
You can't.
It hurts to do that.
Maybe we should do it this way. Sometimes Mark and I will count to three, and we'll give our answer. And if it's the same answer, it's decided. If not, we'll figure it out. It's usually down to two if it's a multiple field. So why don't we count to three? Okay. We'll all say our choice at the same time.
The three of us.
Yeah, and if it's the same, we've got it.
Yeah,
we've got it. All right. So, Mark, do you want to count us in?
All right, I will count us for this.
All right.
It'll be 1, 2, 3, go.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Shemp.
Curly.
Okay.
Perfect. So we've each picked one. I said Shemp, you said Mo, and Billy, you said Curly.
The reason I said that is because I'm always attracted to childlike energy. It's innocent, and like you said earlier, it's pure. And you know what? It's like, I'm sure he improvised like crazy if they allowed him. We got this mapped out, but you want to do a take where, it's your choice. I'm sure he did tons of that, and I'm a musician, and I used to play, and I made a living. And I heard this definition of improvisation that stuck with me. It fractured me. It's like never do anything the same way once. And Curly seemed to be doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He would do variations on similar things, but the chicken with his head cut off, that came from the Bronx farms. They'd be cut off the head of the chicken and it would be still flopping around. And he said, I want to do that. But he would make the chicken's noise as if the head was still on. But
That's a really good point.
Well, what worked? Oh God! There's an actual chicken in here.
It's loose.
There's an actual chicken loose running around. I did not know Billy West had this in his home.
Why are the chickens so afraid of me?
Using that thought, I was ready to either eliminate him or put him on the pedestal.
Yeah,
because I feel like he's such that id, and if the Three Stooges are at their core this childlike id, I would be, if they'll love him or hate him.
Yeah,
I guess it's similar to that. With Curly, it's in my mind, you either eliminate him and make it Mo or Shemp,
yes,
or you just flat out put him on the top. And if you're not eliminating him as an outlier to the group, if you're looking at him as the force behind the group, at least the force behind the group's, the perception of the group and the heart of the group as this childlike game.
Well, he gave it inertia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's almost like an asteroid hitting the Earth. It's so impactful what he did. And I think that's why most people would say his stuff, and repeat and pick up on all the mannerisms and everything. But that's what I was most attracted to. He seemed to be free. Mm-hmm. You never hear him figuring out and making actors' choices. You never watch the wheels turning or, smell sawdust burning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was almost like I said, he was born to do that and nothing else in this world.
Okay.
So Mo, he was an actor. He was a straight actor too.
Yeah.
Before he inadvertently became the bossy leader of a band of misfits. But Curly had no choice. It's like in England. You can either be a coal miner or a rock star. In their world, it was like, you want to sell shoes or you want to poke people in the eye for a living and make money?
Oh, you guys,
Mark?
I've got to get a job selling shoes now.
What do you think?
I'm gonna put Curly up on that Columbia torch holding.
Attaboy.
All right.
Glad to see you.
Well, then allow me to say, people of the world, so many Stooges have come before you in your lifetime, but only one of them had his own hit song in the 80s based on him laying on the side and shuffling himself around on the floor. It's Little Jerome, Curly, the Curly Shuffle, guys. Look it up on YouTube if you haven't seen the video. Me and my gang go out on the town. Blah, 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 with no trouble or hustle. We're just here doing the Curly Shuffle. Doesn't matter. Are you getting upset right now? Did you have another Stooge you liked? Well, let me calm you down. Mo Larry Cheese. Mo Larry Cheese. Mo Larry Cheese.
No, Limburger.
That's right. The best Stooge is Curly, guys. You knew it all along.
Did you? Did you know it all along?
I felt like that's where we'd wind up.
So you've been pulling my chain for 45 minutes. Yep. Come here.
We learned so much about the Stooges.
Yeah, Mark has been robbing you and stealing things from the house the whole time.
Yeah, this wad of cash in my pocket, Shemp actually put it here.
Billy, thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure. It's probably my favorite subject matter.
Billy, you, in addition to being on almost everything, I could go through your resume and get a lot of it. Probably tell people a lot of things you're doing. But you have a podcast.
Yes, the podcast is me and my old friend from Ren and Stimpy, Jim Gomez. He was a director, animator, artist. I wanted us to get together and sound like bad college radio, knowing everything I know.
Oh, that's so good.
About radio.
So this show is pros faking amateurism.
Yes,
I love that.
And you can get it on iTunes. So it's the Billy West Podcast. Is
BillyWestPodcast.com.
BillyWestPodcast.com. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you, and I'm so glad to talk about it. You have to listen to it, and it's really silly, and it's a flight of fancy. It's whimsy.
Yeah. everybody go check it out. But don't spend time arguing about the Stooges anymore. That has been asked and answered, and we know you have more topics you want us to cover, and so we want to hear from you.
So reach out to us on Twitter at We Got This Tweets, or find us on the Maximum Fun subreddit. There's a conversation much like this one happening on there right now.
You didn't have any commercials, though.
That's right.
Yeah. Oh, how come?
There'll be commercials.
This show is brought to you by Bluetooth. Now brain cancer comes in a new color, blue. Bluetooth.
And by our new email, wegotThisPodcast@gmail.com, or on Facebook, facebook.com/We Got This Podcast.
Seamless, Hal. We'd like to thank, as always, our dear friends Jonathan Dinerstein and Mike Furman for our score and our theme song, respectively.
Thank you, dude.
And we're dear friends now.
Yes, we're all best friends.
Hiya, pal. Hiya, pal. Put it there.
My friend.
I know, and now we're one of those podcasts where dear friends just interview each other.
Yeah.
You can't do the next one here because I'm moving next week.
Oh, no, we're breaking in.
Yeah.
Thank you to our friends and producer, Ken Plume, to our graphic designer, Uri Kelman, to our researcher, Kate McManus, to our QA engineer, Jen Alba, my tiki buddy.
Ken Plume is my buddy, too. But he can be a complete bear in the morning.
Right? A real bear.
A complete bear.
You guys, Ken is going to listen to this. He's going to master it.
Yeah.
I know. Hi, Ken.
Hi, Ken.
Hi, Ken.
Hi, Ken.
And thank you again, as always, to you, our listeners. We wouldn't be doing it without you, and we would have no reason to. And we thank you for listening.
Yes.
For Hal Lublin, I'm Mark Gagliardi.
For Mark Gagliardi, I'm Hal Lublin, and don't worry, everyone. We got this.
We got this.
Podcasts.
They're audio programs that
tell smart stories
in innovative ways,
using editing techniques like this.
Like this.
But let's face it, all that smart stuff can be exhausting.
That's where Stop Podcasting Yourself comes in.
It's so stupid.
It's just two stupid dinguses
being dumb idiot jerks for 90 minutes.
Stop Podcasting Yourself.
The stupid show that smart people love.
Find it on iTunes
or MaximumFun.org.
Hey, I'm Barbara Gray.
I'm Brandy Posey.
And I'm Tess Barker.
Together, we make up the Max Fun podcast, Lady to Lady.
Each week, we welcome a kick-ass lady guest.
We talk about our lives, our dreams, and the terrible decisions we've made that still haunt us.
Mm-hmm. We've had on great comedians like Aisha Tyler and Margaret Cho, plus screenwriters, doctors, authors, anyone who's willing to be as open as we are.
It's all a lot of fun. That's us, Lady to Lady.
Can you keep a secret?
Neither.
MaximumFun.org.
Comedy and culture.
Artist owned.
Listener supported.